hot water.
Yeah? Thanks, man.
Alright, so can you explain like what happened in 2012? Like the starting of the event and like why are we still talking about that and why is it important in 2019?
Yeah, I think the 2012 event is not a finished business, to say.
What is the 2012 event?
The 2012 event was the case that led to my constitutional case that I'm challenging currently. That started with the launch in September 1st in 2012, where we were launching the police brutality campaign in Makausu under Makodefo, Makausu Community Development Forum, which was in line or in solidarity also with the Marikana massacre of 16 August 2012. Then we, as the community of Makausu, which is an informal settlement in the east of Joburg, were facing some kind of police brutality and police repression on our rights. So the campaign actually spoke to what we were experiencing, and we wanted to escalate the campaign in terms of mobilizing, and we launched that campaign with some of the miners who were the strike leaders of the 2012 uprising in the Platinum Belt. So we launched the campaign in Makausu on the 1st of September. Then our first action, we wanted to approach the Primrose Police Station in terms of how they operate, how they service us, and how they infringe our rights. But later, the notification, our notification or application was turned down, or our protest was prohibited by the Primrose Police Station with unreasonable reasons. Then we went back to our drawing board as the leadership, we re-strategized, and we re-notified again. Then the second time around, we re-notified through the assistance of South African, or the Freedom of Expression Institute, which was now in solidarity with our application. And we did so for the next date, which was for the 19th of October, since the first one was to be of the 5th of October, but never happened because it was prohibited on the last minute. Then for the 19th of October was approved on the 17th, which was Wednesday. Then we were called to the Section 4 meeting, which is the Regulations of Gathering Act process. Then on our arrival at the venue where the Section 4 meeting was supposed to be held, it was an inconvenient venue because it was the same Primrose Police Station that was supposed to run and lead that Section 4 meeting, which was in violation of the Regulations of Gathering Act itself. So we started by challenging the process and the procedure that they are using in terms of this RGA process. Then the station commander felt intimidated when we started to, especially myself, when I started to question the process, the legitimacy of this process that they are undertaking, which was not in line with the Regulations of Gathering Act in terms of the venue, in terms of how they structured the meeting, how they dictate of what should be done in the meeting, who should be coming to the meeting. So it was not in line with the Regulations of Gathering Act, and we started to question that process itself. Then the station commander felt intimidated. Then we started the meeting already with the station commander that is not comfortable to be engaged, to be challenged. So we continued that meeting, which was not a very conducive space for us and not a free space for us to speak out. We continued the meeting to an extent that they felt that I'm threatening them as the station commander and the head of the visible policing unit, and the member of the Metro Police who was also there, and the member of the intelligence unit who was also in present. Then the prohibition of our protest, which was supposed to take place on the next day, on Friday the 19th, was then prohibited on the basis that I'm angry in that meeting. Then they decided to say, no, our protest action cannot go ahead tomorrow. Then the next day, after that meeting, I was not arrested. But the funny thing is that I was arrested in Makausu Sports Ground, addressing the community mass meetings, giving back the feedback of what transpired yesterday in the so-called Section 4 meeting. Then during that Section 4, that mass meeting, when I was addressing the community, the policing order units from different areas outside Primrose came in numbers, were mobilized in big numbers, came looking for me. All of them, or most of them, knowing my name, they're looking for General. And in the process of notification, I wasn't the convener, I wasn't even the deputy convener, but I was just a spokesperson of the broader police brutality campaign. But all of the police that were arriving there, they were looking for me, knowing my name, and asking for me. Then we're engaging back and forth with them, explaining how we tried to follow the process, how we notified, and what is it that can be done since our protest has been prohibited yesterday. So we are giving back the feedback to the community and to get a fresh mandate from them. So because the community was also angry about what they are hearing, they demanded that the station commander and the provincial commissioner, who was sitting at the Primrose police station on that day, to come down to address the community of Makausu in their own sports ground, rather than them marching there and risking being shot at by the police or being chased around by the police. Then that was a back and forth communication between the police and the station commander and the provincial commissioner, who was sitting at the Primrose police station by then. They were having their senior management meeting there at the police station around this issue of Makausu, but failing the community of Makausu in terms of coming down to address them there in Makausu. So they decided to now instruct the BRT, the POP, all the units that were down in Makausu to say, bring General up by force. So meaning that I was like automatically arrested, thrown into a police van, a truck, taken to a Primrose police station without any explanation of why am I being arrested. Then when the crowd and members of the community came up to the police station to try and find out, some were identified wearing the Remember the Slain of Marikana t-shirts, then were identified and thrown in, arrested for wearing those t-shirts, and their t-shirts were torn by the members of the Primrose police station. One young lady by the name of Bongega Sisulu was made to strip off her t-shirts in a reception in front of every male police officers who were there. So that was also an embarrassing in her. And the police officers, when were questioned about their conduct, then they said, no, it's a culture of a black woman to walk with her breast around. So that is not a big deal. So
okay, so this happened in 2012.
In 2012, 19 October, okay, on Friday.
And then what is the process until what happened in the 19 October and until now? What happened between then and today? What are we fighting for on the 19th of February?
I was arrested for addressing that mass meeting. Then I didn't know what was the charges, and we immediately called in our lawyers, which was Seri. And during that time, because Seri was engaged in the massacre case which took place in Marikana, and they hired the legal service of the BDK attorneys to come and get us a bail. And then they struggled for the whole night to get a local prosecutor who can come over to the Primrose police station to grant us a bail, until the next day, which was Saturday the 20th, when the local prosecutor was available to come and grant us a bail. Then we were granted 1,000 rand each bail to appear on Germiston Regional Court on Monday the 22nd. Then we appeared there, then the case was postponed over and over, up until the state formalized its charges on the 29th of October the next year, a year later. Then in that charge sheet we found out that they are alleging that I've intimidated the station commander by charging towards her, by pointing fingers to her, by uttering words like there will be bloodshed, there will be repeat of Marikana, they won't last at Primrose Police Station. All those utterances, they said, I've said it in the meeting, in the so-called Section 4 meeting, which caused them to prohibit our protest. Then the case since has been postponed up until 2014, when we decided to challenge the act that they are using, which is an intimidation act. Then we moved the case from Regional Court to the North Gauteng High Court, which is Pretoria High Court. Then from there, our application was dismissed in terms of rendering the act unconstitutional. Then we went through the process in 2018 of heading to the Supreme Court of Appeal. Our leave to appeal was granted. Then we approached the Bloemfontein Supreme Court of Appeal. Then our application was heard on the 3rd of March 2018. Then later on March 30th, our application was dismissed by the majority ruling in the Supreme Court of Appeal. I then instructed lawyers to say, let us approach the highest court of the country, because this is a constitutional matter. So that's where we are heading. On the 19th of February, we'll be going and taking this matter to the Constitutional Court to be decided by the constitutional judges.
And now, why is it important to people to participate, to engage in the campaign and to let their voice be heard? What is it important in 2018? Because of the context of the apartheid, you know, you told me that they were trying to shut down the people that they were. So, talk about, you know, how was it back in the days in the apartheid area, and why is it not in our days in 2018?
I think this is one of the historic case, in a sense that this law that they are currently using in a democratic era is an apartheid era informed law or legislation, which comes from what they called during that time a Rabi Commission, which was a commission that was set up sometime around 85 to 1990, when the state was failing to secure convictions around the intimidation or the political threats that the regime was facing during that time. So they amended this Intimidation Act, the particular piece of section, which is 11B, that I'm challenging to Constitutional Court, around 1991, to make sure that those who are dissenting around the state, they get punished by using this Intimidation Act. They get punished because the state was failing to secure any convictions around them. So now the Intimidation Act is a piece of apartheid legislation, which is Act 72 of 1982, that was informed by that Rabi Commission, and it was later amended in 1991 towards the 1994 dispensation.
And on the 19th of February, you'll go to the court in Constitution Hill. What are we expecting from that day?
On that day, there is a lot of expectations, because this case will sort of save many formations that are still going through the repression under the state suppression on their right to freedom of expression, their right to protest, as some of the student leaders who were leading big movements like Your Fees Must Fall of uprising of 2015, that were demanding that their legitimate decolonization of their education and the free quality education that they were demanding. They are being convicted, sentenced, and some are still waiting their sentences around this very same act. And some political figures have also proven that this is an